review anything, freedom to criticize, review anything, freedom to criticize, review anything, doesn't matter what it is, make your opinion heard, even if you sound absurd, keep away from the octopus tentacles.
Hello chums! Welcome to Review Anything, the show where we review anything at all. My name is Sour Apple. Now let's switch on the review generator, shall we? See what we're going to critique today. Disney's Recess.
The Disney cartoon that aired on Saturday mornings over here in my native country of England. It had appeared on the children's programme Dig It, which meant we had to wake up early to catch up the adventures of 6 4th grade students on their playground. However, this was no ordinary playground. It was a schoolyard that had developed into a society run by children under the monarchy of King Bob.
Recess was created by Paul Germain and Joe as Paul and Joe.
Joe had co-developed the series Hey Arnold, while Paul was the co-creator of Rugrats.
I'm going to be spending this show analysing and critiquing the series of Recess. Let's look at the characters first now, shall we?
Let's start off with the star of the show, TJ Detweiler. TJ's design is perfect. That's the best thing about him. He has this distinct 90s kid look that reflected the decade at the time. He's the most vital part of his own crew because he is the leader. He develops ideas for pranks and comes up with solutions to playground problems. In the episode Lost Leader, we see how the group falls apart without TJ's leadership.
Look, nothing personal, but none of these ideas look like they're gonna work. And now that I think about it, I kinda don't like my idea either. How about you, Spinelli?
I like my idea. I'm just not sure it's legal.
But we need a plan!
What we need is someone who can devise a plan.
Yeah, what we need is TJ.
Oh, Lost Leader, where are you when we need you?
Plucky, courageous, and smart thinking, TJ is very much the poster child of Recess, and the most memorable character of the series. TJ never really develops as a character, but he is often tested, most memorably in the episode The Box. In this episode, we see TJ downgraded from his confident, happy-go-lucky self into a blubbering mess as he fears the new punishment created by Miss Finster.
On my shoe.
This shows that there is a weak side to TJ, and that he can be possibly beaten. TJ is cheeky, charming, and witty. He drives the staff crazy and is often pinned responsible for any school trouble. TJ often shows remorse too, though, as well as empathy. In one episode, he tries to help the playground snitch Randall gain respect and friends, which risks his own honour. His ego is rare, but exists. It leads to common clashes with the competitive Vince. He can also be corrupted for an episode. In particular, the episode The Economics of Recess. In this episode, TJ takes over the playground with his own business, based around the currency of Mon stickers.
Hey, TJ, lunch tray revenues are starting to slip. Seems the kids are using their books to carry food.
TJ abandons his traditional ethics and morals in favour of taking over the playground, which goes against his own principles, and changes him into something he's not. Next, we're going to be talking about Ashley Spinelli, one of the members of TJ's crew. Now, I find Spinelli to be a very unlikable character in my opinion. She's bitter, violent, angsty, loud, and aggressive. Her sensitive side is often rare and only expressed in secret. Her dialogue consists of threats.
What, you got crayons in your ears? Get to the end of the line before I show you the end of my fist.
Despite these very noticeable flaws, she can be vital in the group when the crew need to get someone to expose a secret. She's kind of used as the crew's defense. She's a tomboy with dreams of being a wrestler, but that's about it. And it's not a very original character detail, is it? The only episode where Spinelli is relatively deep, or let alone likeable, is where she starts drawing across the whole playground dedicated to her own art piece. But in this episode, she barely says anything. Next there's Vince LaSalle. Sort of the second-in-command character when TJ isn't present, which makes him sort of vital, but it doesn't really give him a distinct role when TJ is present in the group. He's just this perfect athlete and talented chef, that's about it. His ego tests the patience of the group sometimes, but also makes him an unlikable character. There's not much else to him, he's just too perfect. He only fails once in the series, but it's an effective episode that parodies sports movies. But he still remains two-dimensional and egomaniac after the episode. Next I'm going to cover Mikey Blumberg. Mike isn't that exciting as a character, but speaks as a voice of reason for TJ's crew. He has very liberal ideals, and is a very sensitive character. Most overweight children in cartoons are often used as comic relief or bullies. So Mikey is kind of refreshing because he's a gentle giant. The problem is, the fat kid jokes are way too often in this series, with an emphasis on Mikey's love of food. Seen it, been there. The problem can often be that Mikey is too sensitive and nice. He never really expresses enough bitter or sour attitude that could potentially make him seem more human. He does develop a stiff-lipped prejudice against 4th graders once he goes into the 5th grade, but this is very brief and passes by. However, the best thing about Mikey is his singing talent. Mikey's singing voice is done by the legendary Robert Goulet, and it remains funny while also being impressive. Now to analyse Gus Griswold. Gus is perhaps the most interesting character in Recess, despite being slightly annoying. Gus may be a worry merchant and a wimp, but he displays acts of bravery in some episodes. Then he goes back to being a scaredy cat again in the next episode, which is disappointing. Gus is vulnerable and weak. Because Gus is so insecure and fragile, he's very impressionable and easy to mold into something different. He becomes a shady hustler in The Hustler's Apprentice, leading to abandoning his friends, his morals, and ruining a supporting character's career. He dons a new persona in Cool Me Guy, where he sacrifices his sight in order to look cool without glasses. And he becomes the king of the playground in King Gus, where his power goes to his head in no time. But this weakness is what makes him more human compared to the rest of TJ's gang. Being the new addition to the crew, Gus can reflect the audience's curiosity as TJ and his friends mention a story set before the series or mention a secret of the playground.
Just admit it. You guys got dressed up for the big day. What big day?
Today is the day the teachers turn in their annual budget requests.
So
One of the students has to deliver the request to room 101.
you don't mean that's right? One of us kids gets a chance to see inside the teacher's lounge.
It would be awkward if the gang had no one to give spoken exposition to, except each other despite already knowing the fact/event. Gus's past in jumping between schools gives him a bit of mystery too, a bit of a dark side, especially in the episode Dodgeball City, where it is revealed he is secretly a talented dodgeball player that retired after injuring an innocent child.
Poor little kid was so shook up, he could never go near the playground again.
Now I'm going to talk about Gretchen Grundler. There's nothing that interesting about Gretchen. In fact, she's as dull as dishwater. She's the cliché child prodigy character that's been done many times before. She's sensible and clever though, so she provides TJ's crew with gadgets as well as an adult sense of intelligence.
She's boring, but vital to the crew.
Now to discuss the supporting characters, beginning with Randall Weems. He's a very unlikable character, but an essential one, and does display a sensitive side sometimes. For example, in the episode Randall's Reform.
You're miserable, aren't you?
More than you'll ever know. I miss Finster, TJ. The way she used to yell my name. The way she used to order me around. Even the way she used to give me half her pickle and sardine sandwich. We had a special friendship, TJ. But now I'm just a regular kid. And Finster, she's found another snitch.
Randall is the minion of Miss Finster, the playground supervisor, and Miss Finster would seem pretty ridiculous spying on the children, so Randall's appearance is quite vital in the show because he has power over the students as a snitch, but is also treated like a citizen and despised by all the other kids. Randall isn't developed much, but we do get to meet his parents. His father seems to be a major influence on him because he's a wormy snitch too.
He does show a passion for spying too, which reflects his potential career.
Now I'm going to talk about Miss Muriel Finster. She's my favourite character. She's the playground villain in a sense, and her behaviour can be considered sinister. Miss Finster is grouchy, old-fashioned and strict, but she has a sensitive side too, which makes her seem more human compared to other bitter characters like Spinelli or the Ashleys. She has a relationship with Hank the janitor, teaches Spinelli about love, and defends the children in Recess Schools Out. And her friendship and fondness for Principal Prickly is strong.
You'd think I'd be happy, wouldn't you, Randall? But Principal Prickly and I, for years now, we've been a team, like liver and onions, like clam juice and celery.
Like Finster and Weems?
Yes, Randall, a little like Finster and Weems.
Her importance on the playground is vital, because without her, utter chaos can take place upon the playground. In the episode Great State Fair, Miss Finster shows off her fun side, empathizes with Gelman and Gus, because all three of them had to stay behind instead of going to the fair. And this is another prime example why she isn't some kind of cardboard villain with one purpose. We get to know Miss Finster the most in Weekend at Muriel's. She gives exposition about her life before the series, and she becomes self-conscious when Spinelli accuses her of being boring.
You teach, it's horrible. All she ever does is old people stuff. Look, I knew she was mean, but I had no idea she was so boring.
Is it true, Muriel? Have you gotten boring?
Now I'm going to talk about Principal Prickly. Prickly often serves as an antagonist on the show, but he's never really sinister with his intentions. He is a child at heart, and despite his grudge against children, he has a hidden empathy for them. Prickly's relationship with TJ Detweiler is one of my favourite things about Recess, because they clash brilliantly. TJ and Prickly become very close in Recess Schools Out, so much so that their bond is reflected in the straight-to-video film Taking the Fifth Grade, as Prickly explains how he understands TJ's protest and joins him.
This could be considered actual development of a character.
The Ashleys are dangerous antagonists. They are shallow, bitter, and lack any remorse. They are considered enemies to TJ's crew and are often sinister with their intentions. Their power rises in the episode The Ratings Game, when they grade every student on the playground as a number based on their opinions. This makes them as powerful as King Bob himself. They often have a big effect on TJ's crew too, when they play cruel jokes on them, or when their clubhouse rules bring his crew into their lives. This is at its most extreme when Spinelli is revealed to be an Ashley.
What do you want?
I, Ashley A, invite you, Ashley S, to be our new sister.
Yeah, right. Send in the clowns, Powder Puff.
Actually, Ashley S, you don't, have a choice.
Like what?
According to the Constitution of the Playground, Rule 5, Article 3, under clicks, and I quote, any kid named Ashley must become a member of the Ashleys if invited by another Ashley.
But that can't be right. I'm afraid of this, Spinelli. It's an obscure, rarely used rule, but it's here.
So I guess it's like official. You're one of us.
The final character I'm going to cover is King Bob. King Bob is the highest order of power on the playground. He makes all the political decisions and approves any requests. He can be quite spoilt and sometimes forgets his own responsibility as king. However, his moral values remain credible, and he seems like a much more sensible and caring monarch compared to others like Gus in King Gus or Freddy in Taking the Fifth Grade. Nothing much is shown about the student behind the crown, but Miss Finster addresses him by his first name, which is Robert, and he is actually shown attending a class in the episode Pharaoh Bob. Now, of course, there are many other supporting characters in the series, but I'd like to move on. Some other characters may pop up, they might become relevant to something I'm talking about later. But now I mark the end of part 1. Please go in search of part 2, it might be at this side, but it'll definitely be on my profile. See you in a bit.